I'm going to show you how to properly manage your tasks using the tools that you already have in Microsoft 365. Charlotte, what is the problem that you would like me to solve for you today?
Oh, Matt, it's a nightmare. I've got Tom in accounts doing his own thing using Trello. Nobody knows whether they should be using Planner or To-Do, and half the team are using Post-it notes. Can you help us understand which Microsoft 365 apps to use for tracking our tasks?
That's definitely a classic. People overwhelmed by the amount of different options in Microsoft 365. So first and foremost, Microsoft To Do is all about managing your personal tasks. It does have some task sharing capabilities, but not like the collaboration benefits that you get with Microsoft Planner. But let's have a deeper look at the differences here and how to use these two different tools. The first app that I'm going to talk to you about is Microsoft To Do, which, as I mentioned, is all about managing your own tasks. So I'm actually going to start this demonstration by getting you to add the Microsoft Planner app to Microsoft Teams. There's a number of reasons for that, which you'll find out very shortly. So if you open up Microsoft Teams and click on the three dots here to view more apps, and if you type in Planner, click on Planner, and that will add the Planner app to Microsoft Teams. So we're going to park this and come back to it. We're then going to go to m365.cloud.microsoft. Click on apps, and here you can click on all apps and look for the Microsoft To Do app. So here it is. Microsoft To Do and Planner and everything that I'm showing you today is included in pretty much all Microsoft 365 subscriptions. So in Microsoft To Do, you can come down to tasks and create a new task for yourself. So let's say that this afternoon, I need to remember to go and clear out my server room. So clear out the server room. Okay, so that's my task created. Nice and easy, but you'll notice that is not showing under my day here today because I've created this task, but haven't really specified that this is something I'm going to work on today. So if I click on that task, I can click add to my day, or let's say I wanted to do this on Friday. Fridays are a bit quieter. I can click add due date and set the due date to Friday. Okay, so on Friday, when I come into my day, because I've set the due date as Friday, that task is going to appear in my day there. Just to demonstrate that, if I click back on this task and change the due date to today, you'll notice that has now appeared in my day here. I can also star this as an important task. So if I look at important tasks here, if I'm incredibly busy and I just need to focus on the important things, then that task is now going to show there. So they're not lists of different data, they're really just different ways of filtering my overall tasks. They all appear at the bottom here in tasks. We've also got flagged emails and assigned to me. Assigned to me will show you any tasks that have been assigned to you by other people in Microsoft Planner. So if we go back to apps and click on Planner, I'm going to click on my plans and click on the IT services planner. Let's assign a task to me. So under triage here, let's put order pizza for the support team and click on that. And I'm going to assign that task to myself. So if I now go back to To-Do and click on assign to me, we can see that order pizza for the support team is showing there. If I tick that off and mark it as complete and go back to Planner, refresh the page, we can see that task has now gone into completed tasks. So there is quite a lot of integration between these two tools. But what's the difference? Well, as I said, Microsoft To Do is really the best place for managing tasks that are assigned to you or for managing your own personal tasks. We also have this planned view here. So we click on planned and that filters tasks, looking at tasks that are past due. So earlier we'll show tasks that I had created that are past due. We then have tasks that are due today, tomorrow, and then it's going to show the following few days. We can change the view at the top here to list or grid. So we just want to see all of our tasks here. Then they will show in this view. And we've also got some filter options here. We can print the list or show completed tasks. The final view here is flagged emails. So yes, you guessed it, your flagged emails will appear here. So why don't we go in and flag an email? So I'm going to open the Outlook app. And I've got a parents' evening appointment from when I was demonstrating Microsoft Bookings the other day. So let's flag that email and come back into here. And here we go. I can see my parents' evening appointment has been flagged here. So if I tick that and mark it as complete and go back to my emails, we can see that now has a tick against it because I've completed the task. If I reflag that message, it's going to show back up here in Outlook. If I unflag that message, it's gone from this list. So it's a very nice integrated experience. It's one place where you can look at all tasks that have been assigned to you. If we go back to tasks and just look at some of the other options we've got on here. So if I click on this, I can ask it to remind me about this task. So let's ask this to remind me later today because this task is due today, and turn those notifications on. I can set this task to repeat. So if this was a weekly task to clean out the server room, I don't need to remember to come in here and recreate it every week. We can set that to repeat every single week on a Thursday. We've also got categories here, so we can assign different categories. We can attach a file here if I would like some information here. So maybe I've got some kind of checklist of things that I should work through every time we clear out the server room, some notes with a bit more information, or even some different steps at the top here. So dust off the servers. And now I can see on this task here that we've got 0 of 3 tasks completed. So if I completed just one of those, we can see that there are 2 tasks left to complete. And I can see on the task here that we've got notifications on, and this icon means this is a repeating task. So if I mark this task as completed, it's going to recreate the following week. We also have these lists here, which are a way of organizing different tasks, and you can also share these lists with other people. But I'm not going to show you that functionality yet, and there's a good reason for it. We'll come back to this later in the video. So now it's time to have a look at Microsoft Planner. I've done videos on Microsoft Planner before. Microsoft Planner is a way of collaborating on tasks as a team. So as I demonstrated earlier, you can come into m365.cloud.microsoft, click on apps and look for Planner. And in here, you can create a new plan. So you've got a few different options here with different templates, and you can see all templates to look at other options, but I'm going to just create a basic grid. We've also got the option to add it to a group, and really encourage you to use that if you are using Microsoft Teams or Microsoft 365 groups, because it's a really easy way of managing the permissions. If I add this to my IT services team, anyone that's added into the IT services group in future is going to have access to this plan. I won't need to keep remembering to add them to all these different resources. So let's click on IT services and add this to my pinned plans if I want to. Let's create a plan for support team tasks. So you'll see we've got a blank board here, and we've got a single bucket and the option to create new buckets. My clients will often ask me, how should I use these buckets? What is the right way to do it? Well, there's not really a right or wrong way to do it. It really depends on what you're using the plan for. What you really need to focus on is what is the best way to group your tasks. What makes the most logical sense to you in the way that you're using this plan. Now, you can see here out of the box, we've got this one is called to do. You don't really need to have a bucket for tasks that are to do or completed, because when a task is completed, it disappears from view anyway. So if we create a task here, clear out the server room and tick that off, that's gone into completed task anyway. So I don't really see the value of having a to-do list. So the support team tasks, we might have admin tasks, project tasks, training tasks. Just as an example. Now this suits my support team. We might create some others. If this was a project, I would probably have different phases here. So we would probably have planning, delivery, project, wrap up tasks. Let's create a task under admin here. Microsoft 365 license audit. Okay. If I click on that task, I'm going to add some more information here. I'm going to assign this to someone. So I want to assign this to a couple of people, my colleague and myself. So you can have any number of people assigned to a task here, and we can set the progress. Has this not been started? Is this in progress? And we can assign priorities, labels, which you can customize, and we can set a start date. If I don't really want anyone starting on this until next week, I can set my start date to the 18th. And it's a really good idea to set a due date, because then it's going to send people reminders as we approach that due date. We've then got this option to repeat tasks like the one I showed you earlier at Microsoft To Do. So we had some kind of recurring admin tasks, we could set them to repeat. So maybe we want to do this Microsoft 365 license audit every single month. Now we don't have to remember to repeat that. So we can add some more details here about what we actually are expecting the team to do with this task. The checklist is always a good idea just to break down what we actually need to do there. So we might need to export our Microsoft 365 users. And just like in To Do, we can add attachments and we can add comments. So the team can all comment on this task, talking about what they've done and how things have progressed. And then when we have our weekly team support meetings, we can look back on this plan and review the tasks together. If you put a task in the wrong bucket, you can easily drag them and drop them between different boards. And if we go back to Microsoft To Do and click on Assign to Me, we can see that Microsoft 365 license audit. If you remember at the start of the video, I also got you to add Planner to Microsoft Teams. Let's have a look at this. So if we click on Planner, so in here, if we click on My Tasks, I can see tasks that have been assigned to me. So I can see this Microsoft 365 license audit. I can see the plan that it's come from, and I can see there are a couple of different checklist tasks on there. So I can click on that and interact with this task without having to go and find the plan where that is. So it's a nice central location for all of your tasks.
Matt, what about your private tasks created in Microsoft To Do? Will they also show here?
Yes, Charlotte, you can actually see tasks that you have created in Microsoft To Do here. So if I click on all tasks, I can see all of my tasks, wherever they have come from, whether it's a private task that I've created in here or in Microsoft To Do, or something that's assigned to me from a different team. One limitation of this that I will point out is if I have delegated a task to one of my colleagues, but I've not assigned myself to that task, I'm not actually going to see it here. It's not going to show in To Do, and it's not going to show in Planner for me. I would actually have to look at that Planner board to see all of the tasks. We can see here we've got my flagged emails, so I can filter out my flagged emails. I can see really all of the same data that is in Microsoft To Do. But do you actually really need to use Microsoft To Do as well as Planner for managing your tasks? I would say generally no, and it'd be good to keep things simple for your end users and just give them one app to use. So how do you actually create a private task in Planner? Well, you can do that from the Planner app in Microsoft Teams. So if I just click on private tasks and create add new task, I can create a new task here. So let's create a order a Chinese takeaway. Clearly I'm hungry today. So if I go into Microsoft To Do, I can see that order a Chinese takeaway has been created there. So whilst we don't need to use both apps, it's important to note that both apps are generally looking at the same data. You can create and manage your private tasks in both apps. They're both looking at the same list of private tasks, and both of them can see your flagged emails. Both of them can see tasks that have been assigned to you. But Planner does give you the ability to have these collaborative planner boards for team collaboration. If you go into Outlook, you will see that To Do is on the left-hand side. So it's just another place that you can open your to-do list. We're looking at exactly the same app here. So yes, if you are working quite heavily out of Outlook, then you might find it helpful to use To Do in that scenario, because it is just looking at the same data, even if you are primarily using Planner. But otherwise, in terms of keeping it simple for your end users, they can just use Planner. Now, you can also add plans into your Microsoft Teams channel. So let's see how you can do that with just a few clicks. But at the top, if we click Add a New Tab and search for Planner, there it is. Save. And we can either create a new plan or add an existing plan. So I'm going to add the plan that I created earlier on, which was my support team tasks plan. Let's click Add to Channel. And I can now see my Microsoft support team plan. And now the team can really easily just click on to this tab at the top and interact with these tasks in exactly the same way they could in the Planner app. So now there's not really a reason for this team to need to go into the Planner app via the web portal. We've got different ways of viewing the tasks here. We can click on grid, board, schedule, so we can see tasks that are planned across different dates. So I can see this Microsoft 365 license audit we've got scheduled to start on the 18th and finish on the 31st. And we've also got some charts here with different statistics and insights. We can also filter out our tasks here by keyword, labels, assignments. So if I wanted to see all tasks that are assigned to my colleague David before I had a one-to-one with him, I can say, right, David, you've got about 50 tasks on this board. Maybe we've given you too much to do, or maybe you're not pulling your weight. Either way. And we can also change the way that tasks are grouped here. So if I get rid of these filters, clear it all at the top. And rather than grouping by bucket, I can group by who they're assigned to, progress, priority, or different labels. We saw earlier how we could customize these different labels. So we could change that and give it a different name. But what we could do is group them by technology. So maybe the 365 tasks, we can tag this with Microsoft 365. And now when I filter by labels, I can see all tasks that relate to Microsoft 365.
Matt, what if I have tasks that I just want to assign to one person and don't want anyone else to see?
So that's an interesting question, Charlotte. What you could do is create a plan just with that person, but that might be a bit of overkill. And you actually can't add a plan to a Microsoft Teams chat anyway. So if you have a one-to-one chat with that person, you cannot add a plan to one of the tabs on that chat. So I'll show you what I mean. If we click on chat, and clearly I'm not very popular in my test environment because I've got nobody that I'm chatting with. So let's search for my colleague, David. If I click on the top here, there are some tabs that I can add. But if I search for Planner, it does not exist there because I cannot add it. It's simply not possible. So going back to Microsoft To Do, as I mentioned earlier, you can create these lists in To Do. So let's call this Matt and David, and I can share this list. So if I click on share, and we have to create an invitation link. So this is a bit annoying, to be honest. In Microsoft Planner, you can just add a person to your plan and they don't have to accept it. In To Do, you do have to create an invitation link. So I click create invitation link, copy the link and send it to my colleague. My colleague can then accept the link and I'll be able to assign them tasks. So if we create order some keyboards for the office, and I can click assign to and assign that to someone else. So if David has accepted the link, then I can assign it to him. So it's a bit more difficult to set up. Going back to the Microsoft To Do versus Planner debate, do I really need a completely separate list for tasks like this with David? Probably not, but if I was the CEO or working in HR, maybe there are some tasks that I will assign to people that simply cannot be viewed by the rest of the team. Let's say that I'm the CEO or I'm the IT director and David is our IT support manager and we are investigating something that one of the users has done on the system. Then I probably don't want the whole team to see that. Don't want this in the IT team board creating gossip. And this would be a good place to create that task where only David could see it. So you could easily get into a mess with this if you're using Planner and To-Do lists. So whilst there might be a use case for people in certain roles to have tasks with an individual that are not visible to anyone else, on the most part, people should be collaborating as a team and we don't want to be really rolling To Do and Planner out to everybody. It's just going to create confusion. So in answer to your question, Charlotte, I would say roll out Planner to everybody. But for those people in specific roles where they are working with much more sensitive tasks, then let's show them these shared lists that you can create in Microsoft To Do. Now, if you are using that functionality, so if I just create a new task. Let's say I've assigned that to myself or a colleague has assigned that to me. If I go back into Planner and click on Assign to Me, I've got that task here as well. And I can see that has come from the Matt and David to-do list. And in David's case, because David has been assigned this task, David still doesn't even really need to use Microsoft To Do. Me as the IT director or CEO or HR or whoever I am, I've had to use To Do to assign him this personal and confidential task so I can keep track of it too. But David really does not need to use To Do as well. He can just come into Planner and see the tasks that I have assigned to him.
Excellent. So for my requirements, we are all going to use Planner for managing all of our tasks. Some of our leadership team will use To Do to assign sensitive tasks to individuals, but generally they will work from their leadership team plan in Microsoft Planner.
I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe for more content like this.